Hi, this is the Hard to Please Technician and I'm joined by Thor. This is the top 5 best controllers of all time.
First out, number 5, we have the Nintendo 64 controller. This one hits me right into childhood. I absolutely love this controller. I would play my 64 for hours and I don't know where to start. I mean, the grip is perfect, with it being interchangeable as well for games where you actually had to use the D-pad. But when you didn't, you would just use the middle and right grip and you would have perfect access to all the buttons. Wouldn't have to worry in any way because the second you grab the controller, you literally had the perfect grip because there's only one way to hold it.
And at number 4, the Super Nintendo Entertainment System or SNES controller. This controller was amazing. The D-pad on it was perfectly responsive. Finally got the shoulder buttons that worked really well, and you just could access any of the buttons just in your hands without any trouble. Comfortable to hold for hours and just fit perfectly.
And in third, we have the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis controller. Now, I never owned one myself, but quite a few of my friends did, and I adore the controllers. The rounded edges made them very comfortable, sit very comfortably in your hand. The angle of the buttons, again, just gave them that perfect position so that you wouldn't have to strain yourself to actually be able to use all of them. The D-pad was quite nice indeed, and just all in all a very good controller. It felt sturdy, it's just one of the greats.
And at number 2, the Xbox 360 controller. There's literally, I couldn't say enough about this controller. Fit perfectly in your hand. You could play it all day long without any troubles. Probably the second best triggers I have ever used. You have both your analog sticks in exactly the right position so you can get your thumbs to them without any trouble, but still can access the D-pad without any issue. You finally got the second set of bumpers, as they called them, so you had the extra inputs instead of the black and white that they had on the original Xbox. Wireless or wired, both work well. I personally plug my wired one into my PC all the time. Just an amazing controller, and pretty much everyone can agree on that. Okay, for number 1, this is where the argument started. Neither me nor Thor could agree on what would be number 1, so this is a joint position.
So, for my personal number 1, we have the PlayStation 4 controller. Mind you, I never thought I would love it as much as I did when I actually bought my PlayStation earlier this year, and I adore it in every single way. It's got a good weight to it. It fits well in your hands. The triggers are actually nice on the number 4 controller, and the touchpad isn't as much of a bother as one would have expected. I did look at that and found it a bit shifty, but I find that it integrates well in games that actually use it. Yeah, all in all, it's brilliant.
Okay, and my pick for number 1 is the Sega Dreamcast controller. Now, I know not a lot of people will agree with me on this, but this controller was amazing. Not only could I hold this controller in my hands for just so much more time than any other controller, but having the VMU interface meant on certain games you can have things that came up on the screen that were relevant. For example, in the Resident Evil games, your health was displayed on the VMU, so you didn't have to go onto a different screen just to see your health. You could also remove the VMU and play games on it, which is something Thor didn't realise before we made this video. The analog stick on it was brilliant, the D-pad on it was brilliant, and all the buttons were brilliant. The triggers on this controller were the best I've ever used. They are my number 1. I wish there was more racing games that came out on this console because they was just so responsive. You knew exactly where you were on them. They had a definite feel when you hit the end. They fit in your hand perfectly. You never felt that you was having to strain to hold them down. You literally, your fingers just hooked into them. Yes, it is missing the second analog stick, but in those days they weren't heavily used. It can take a beating. It's perfectly comfortable, so responsive, and just, in my opinion, the best controller ever made. Thank you for watching. Please give us a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for further videos, leave them in the comments below. Thank you.